All the regular info that is listed on these documents, like the date, location, etc., was redacted, so that obviously won't be written out today. I assume that this takes place in the mid to late 80s, as they had talks about the Hysteria Project at the end of Case File 3. I don't know for sure though. Dr. Harry Mallow's introduction to the Hysteria Project.
This fine organization was founded early in our country's history to investigate and combat the paranormal and otherworldly. We tried our best, but you can't fight atrocities with mere men. A few projects were headed up back in the 50s and 60s to create a better being, something we could use to fight the unfightable and perhaps even advance America's interest worldwide. They failed miserably. Ethics of the time as well as lack of funding are to be blamed. Under the Flint Directive, we have been given the money, resources and approval to improve upon normal humans or to create some new sort of meta-human in an attempt to protect this fine country. We may not be the only project now underway, but we will be the most successful. The Hysteria Project is based around the concept of excess emotion and paranormal entities. These entities, which are, in layman's terms, ghosts, naturally give off various emotions and energy signals associated with the emotion. We believe that we can use this to alter the human physiology and give us a chance at fighting back. We have 120 subjects altogether, 60 volunteers, 60 non-volunteers. Half of each group will be subjected to P+, positive paranormal particles, while the other half of each group will be subjected to P-, negative paranormal particles. P+ are positive emotions such as joy and happiness elevated to extreme highs, while P- are the exact opposite. We have extracted matter, if you can call it that, to be infused with each subject. Each sample of matter is associated with the emotions of the entity it was taken from. We also plan to use P-emitters, a retooled version of the P-zapper, to bombard the subject with the energy and emotions to further stimulate change and progress. This will be done over a period of time that is, of right now, unspecified. We are making progress into the unknown, and I do not wish to set constraints just yet. Everyone is to read the safety procedures and treatment guidelines on the following page. Should you have any questions, please direct them to me after work hours. Also, please stay away from Paranormal Research Space 1 to 5, those are for the other projects and are classified. That being said, please also be on the lookout for other project members straying into Base 6. Our project is just as classified as the others, and they are not allowed in here.
Research notes of Dr. Mallow. 1. Note: Dr. Mallow used these notes to write up the official report for the Hysteria Project, but his personal notes are much more inclusive and will be stored in the archives instead.
22 out of 30 P+ volunteers remain. 17 out of 30 P+ non-volunteers remain. 12 out of 30 P- volunteers remain. 19 out of 30 P- non-volunteers remain. Initial week of testing has gone by about as well as can be expected. Most of the failed subjects' bodies could not contain the introduction of the matter to the system. A few more were lost when we introduced the P-emitter signal. Those killed by the emitter simply died of brain hemorrhaging and were disposed of, while the matter-induced deaths have been a bit more fruitful. It seems that the matter we introduced into the system was capable of killing a body too weak to fight off whatever force it was that was attacking it. I was going to dispose of these bodies, but we soon found that the bodies were constantly moving into new positions in locations in their cells, when no one was looking. We checked the surveillance footage of each cell and found that the bodies would indeed get up and move around in quick, jerky movements. The current popular theory among Hysteria is that each corpse is now semi-possessed due to some effect from the matter in their body. If you let the corpse know that you have seen it move, it usually stops the dead body charade, and you can then attempt to communicate with it. It seems that the initial P energy decides the mood and temperament of the mannequin, unofficial name, Those introduced to positive particles seem to have their face set in a permanent smile or laugh. Their movements aren't fluid at all, but there is a sense of zeal or joy in the way they animate themselves. Talking with them is exceedingly difficult, as they either talk too fast to be understood, or they just speak plain gibberish. When you can communicate with them, they act very childlike and appear to want to play games, which we found out to be extreme acts of aggression and perhaps even murderous intent. Negative particles produce entirely different mannequin. The face of a negative mannequin is either very sad or somber, or set into a glare or snarl-like face. Negative mannequins' personalities are also different on whether they are sad or angry. Both are easy to understand and talk in a slow, rolling manner of speech. Sorrow negatives move very slowly and fluid, very much akin to a sloth, while rage negatives have fast, jerky movements. Also, the only time we've observed them moving is when they are trying to attack a researcher or through the surveillance camera, where they didn't move much at all. Expectedly, the rage negatives are bloodthirsty to a fault. Sorrow negatives are the most rational of the three mannequins and almost seem to be human. It may be that a larger chunk of the original person's personality is retained. We took a sorrow negative over to a testing room to see if we could use them. The mannequin was a young boy. He was an exceptionally frail non-volunteer that had been chosen just to see if P energy could make him stronger. I was not surprised to find he had died from the matter infusion. It turns out that mannequins are quite durable. 5 pistol shots to the head, impalement and removal of limbs does not kill or stop a mannequin. Incineration seems to be the only viable manner of disposing of them as of now. Each mannequin also displays certain abilities that I hope will manifest in our living subjects at some point. Positives have started to display above average speed in their movement. This can create a disturbing after-image effect that they seem to use to demoralizing effect. Rage negatives have the highest constitution of the mannequins and can take a great deal of punishment before their bodies start to lose effectiveness. Sorrow negatives appear to work on a psychological level. They seem to be able to induce suicidal thoughts and feelings into some of the people around them. Mannequins are certainly a happy accident of the Hysteria Project. It may be quite possible to create a harness or means of control. However, we are tasked with creating living subjects, so the mannequins are to be moved to another branch to be utilized by a future project. Research notes of Dr. Myuu 2. No further casualties. We've upped the P emitters as well as added direct exposure of an entity to each subject. Several mutations have been noted. A few of the subjects have a dim glow to their eyes. Not sure what it will produce, however. A couple of others are showing growth in their limbs in a manner much like Subject 653 and Target Omega. I believe there are other changes going on that we can't perceive yet. In regards to behavior, we've noticed some patterns as well. Positive volunteers appear to act almost completely normal to before treatment, except for the fact that they no longer sleep. We are not sure if they have achieved some metabolic harmony and no longer need sleep, or if something is just preventing them from doing so. We will observe this for a while longer before acting. Positive non-volunteers act similar to the positive mannequins. They are overly giddy and are starting to show signs of homicidal intentions. I've had low-grade tranquilizers added to their medicinal cocktails to keep them from suddenly lashing out. We've also found them in corners whispering to themselves. Almost every negative volunteer has degraded into a zombie-like state. It's getting to the point where we have to feed and clothe them. The few that aren't zombies act rather normal. Every negative non-volunteer has degraded to an animalistic state except for one. We can't communicate with them at all. A shame really, but if they show enough signs of enhancement, then perhaps they could be controlled like the mannequins. The one that hasn't become feral has shown signs of increased stamina, agility and mental capacities. No other changes as of now. Research notes of Dr. Myuu 3. 2 out of 30 P+ volunteers remain. 7 out of 30 P+ non-volunteers remain. 3 out of 30 P- volunteers remain. 1 out of 30 P- non-volunteers remain. Things have most certainly progressed, bad and good. One of the positive non-volunteers killed 2 researchers and escaped the facility. At first we were unsure of how he could pull this off, but surveillance cameras show that he had developed the teleportation ability found in several entities. The boy's name is Chris something or other. He was brought here along with 3 others who are now mannequins. While annoying, this is hardly a setback. We may have made mistakes with the positive volunteers. We started forcing them to sleep because we noticed that the lack of rest was starting to affect them physically. They all refused to sleep and we were forced to start giving them sedatives. All of them, besides twin sisters, died in their sleep. When I asked them why everyone else had died, they replied that it was because the monster can't get us if one of us stays up to guard the other. Somehow, one of them had overcome the sedative long enough to allow the other twin to sleep for several hours. They then switched roles. We are letting them sleep on our rotation now to accommodate this development. The twins do seem to be developing rudimentary psionic powers, however. We have more positive non-volunteers left than in any other group. All 7 of them have undergone physical changes. They have developed elongated arms and their shoulder bones are now tipped with a slight point. Their teeth are also becoming more fang-like. Their odd behavior has only increased, but this pales in comparison to their newfound ability. We found them sitting high up on the cell walls or even on the ceiling. Surveillance just shows them walk right or crawl right up the wall with ease. I can only guess that the P energy has somehow given them the ability to alter gravity around themselves. Every negative volunteer that was in that zombie-like state has died. They didn't come back as mannequins either, which I found to be mildly disappointing. The 3 that we have left are showing signs of growth in muscle mass, height and strength, though this group still seems to be successful. All 3 appear to be perfectly sane, although they have become rather closed off and antisocial. It appears all of the fewer negative non-volunteers died of symptoms that reminded me of rabies. It took several days, but each morning we'd inspect their cells and find them covered in a frothy blood. None of them became mannequins. The lone survivor has truly become a meta-human though. He appears to be perfectly normal, no abnormal growth, no disfiguration, and he is superior to a regular human in every way. I have high hopes for what he'll be able to do for the organization. I only hope that his status as a non-volunteer doesn't get in the way. Research notes of Dr. Mallow 4. No further casualties. It's been 8 months since the beginning of the Hysteria Project, and we have finally reached the fruits of our labor. It appears that all ability growth and mutations have finally slowed down or stopped entirely, so there's now plenty of reason to start life testing. The twins are the only live subjects to retain the dimly lit eyes. We believe that this allows them to see things we normally can't. Perhaps it's a view into another dimension, or maybe they can see beings invisible to us humans. Their psionic abilities also seem to have progressed, but there's one overall hiccup. They can only function in tandem. What they've told us implies that whatever being killed off the rest of the positive volunteers can kill them if one of them uses their powers without the other twin. At least we now know the proper subjects together to recreate this power set. Positive non-volunteers have become truly interesting creatures. Their final mutation is much like the very beings we are hoping to combat. The shoulder blades of each subject have jutted out in definite points. Their arms are now almost identical to Subject 653's. More extreme mutations have occurred as well. All body hair has fallen out and they are now entirely bald. The head of each subject has also elongated into an almost cone shape and their mouths now extend to each ear. A second row of pointed teeth has also grown in on both the top and bottom of the mouth. The most remarkable mutation is the second set of arms, however. The arms grow out of the back slightly above the kidneys and grow outward. They are elongated and end with well-developed claws that the original set of arms lack. It seems that a lot of the bone matter used to fuel this growth was taken from the lower ribcage, so the skin and muscle in that area has hardened more than the rest of the body to compensate. Positive non-volunteers have been hard to peg down intelligence-wise, however. We can no longer communicate with them, but it appears they possess an animal cunning to replace it. Perhaps we will test them with basic puzzles or step up surveillance on them, but I'm truly excited for the live testing segment. The 3 negative volunteers have kept physical growth at slightly over 8 feet tall. They've lost all body hair like the positive non-volunteers. They have gained a remarkable healing factor, however, and their bodies will push out a bullet and repair the wound in mere minutes. They keep up an emotional wall at all times, but they are still quite willing to cooperate. The sole negative non-volunteer continues to be the pinnacle of this project. He can beat every researcher here in a game of chess with ease, has aced every intelligence test we've thrown at him, and is physically superior to humans. While initially worried that he'd be angry at us due to his non-volunteer status, he's actually quite thankful that he's been transformed. I'm not entirely willing to believe that just yet, but there's not much more we can do besides keeping an eye on him.
Life testing sequence.
The life testing sequences put a subject, or two in the twins' case, in a large yet contained room with simulated debris, light levels and other variables to simulate an actual encounter zone. Subjects will be pit against US Special Forces, mercenaries and various other people with combat training who have been told that they are performing a live fire drill, with no other knowledge of what they will be experiencing. Subject 1. Positive volunteers. 2 soldiers are introduced into the environment with the twins already in place. The soldiers creep through the debris, clearly attempting to remain hidden from the danger they were not told about. That stopped when they saw the twins. Both men lowered their weapons and came out of hiding, which was a fatal mistake. The first soldier was torn apart from the inside out by a psionic hurricane created within his body. The remaining soldier fired a few shots, but they were deftly deflected by one twin, while the other killed the soldier in a manner similar to the first. This brought up questions about how much punishment their psionic barriers could absorb. Everything from shotguns to grenades to antimatter rifles has been tested and the twins can absorb all of it, also both of them had to simultaneously deflect some of the heavier firepower. Subject 2. Positive non-volunteers. One subject is placed in the environment with one soldier. The subject quickly zones in onto the soldier's location despite the fact that he is hidden. Subject uses walls and ceiling for cover and proceeds to follow and toy with the soldier for 1 hour and 53 minutes before finally pouncing on him and tearing his limbs off with the clawed arms and choking him with the original arms. Subject then feasted on the corpse before various gases were introduced into the room to incapacitate it. Several more tests were held, introducing more soldiers into the environment while maintaining one subject. In these circumstances, the subject bides its time and slowly picks off soldier one at a time, often falling from the ceiling to make an attack and retreating just as quickly. Every time there was one soldier left, the subject would take its time before finally making the kill. Subjects seem to take a cat-like approach to the targets. One subject batted a man around for several minutes before retreating again to watch him some more. Other subjects have baited the man into looking one way only to appear from another direction and not attack. It appears subjects enjoy demoralizing targets. Clawed arms are mainly used for maiming, while the regular arms for holding, grasping or strangling. This is also the first time we've seen them demonstrate their pouncing ability. All 3 negative volunteer tests progressed in the same manner. The soldiers would enter the room and assume cover to scout out the area. The subject would lumber up to them, taking fire the whole time. Subject reaches the soldiers and proceeds to smash them or rip them apart with bare hands. Their wounds heal several minutes later and they appear unscathed. The negative volunteers requested weapons and a larger group of soldiers to test them. Various bladed and blunt weapons were provided and upped the subject's efficiency even against larger groups of soldiers. Subject 4. Negative non-volunteer. Initially, the test was to have the subject pitted against one soldier, but he requested several more soldiers be added to his test. This request was granted. 8 soldiers were introduced into the environment. The subject approached them like he was another part of the test, and convinced them that there was another unseen threat in the area. The subject then used powers we were not formally aware of. He would get close to a soldier and his eyes rolled back into his head momentarily, while whispering something into the soldier's ear. The soldier would then turn and shoot a fellow soldier, leading to him being shot by the remaining soldiers for the unexplained murder. Subject did this several times to whittle down their numbers, all the while telling them of the horror in the room with them. When there were 3 soldiers left, the subject snapped 2 of their necks before approaching the remaining soldier and whispering in his ear. The subject then walked away from the soldier, who was staring at his gun, to return to his holding cell. The soldier eventually put the gun to their head and killed themselves due to whatever power of suggestion the subject has.
Research notes of Dr. Mallow 5.
I've just met with some of the higher ups in the organization. My project is not only the first to produce results, but also looks to be the only project other than the Architect project to produce usable subjects. I've gained a lot of credibility due to this and will be given rights to even more ambitious projects in the future. That being said, I need to review the attributes and abilities of the subjects that my work has made.
Dossiers for subject groups 1 to 4. Group name: Subject 1. Experimentation type: Positive volunteers. Subject survived. 2. Names:
Redacted.
Age: 13. Both. History: both of the girls joined the project willingly after their parents were caught smuggling secrets out of the organization to sell to other countries. The deal was that if they participated in the project, then their parents would be spared. They are now being used to keep the twins from rebelling. Powers: abilities: psionic powers, both offensive and defensive. Enhanced vision, possibly into other realms. Operative name: Aegis 1 and Aegis 2. Additional info: both girls talk about a figure or entity that will kill them if they sleep or use their powers alone. This means that Aegis 1 and 2 can only be used as a team instead of as separate agents. Group name: Subject 2. Experimentation type: Positive non-volunteers. Subject survived. 7. Names:
Redacted.
Age: various, ranging from 19 to 37. History: all non-volunteers were taken from various sources including homeless shelters, mental institutes, prisons, and a few kidnappings. All subjects are now roughly equal in appearance regardless of original age, sex, and race. Powers: abilities: extreme mutations, extra set of clawed arms as well as elongated original arms, enhanced jaw and teeth, ability to climb and stick to walls and ceilings, impressive leaping power. Operative name: Stalkers. Additional info: Stalkers have been named after the desire to stalk and toy with the target before killing them. Stalkers also appear to be completely feral, so a means of control needs to be created, or they need to be utilized in situations where civilian losses are acceptable. Also, it is unknown if the one subject that escaped will become a stalker. He possessed a teleportation power not found in the others. Group name: Subject 3. Experimentation type: Negative volunteers. Subjects survived. 3. Names:
Redacted.
Age: 27, 31, 39. History: all 3 subjects were previous organization agents who volunteered for the project to advance our agenda. Powers: abilities: enhanced height and muscle mass, effective healing factor. Operative name: Titan 1, Titan 2, and Titan 3. Additional info: all 3 Titans have displayed a willingness and desire to use weapons, both melee and ranged, to complete goals. Loyalty to organization can still be confirmed. Group name: Subject 4. Experimentation type: Negative non-volunteers. Subjects survived. 1. Names:
Redacted.
Age:
Redacted.
History: the surviving subject was taken from his home due to an unusual blood type that we wanted to see if P energy could fuse with. Powers: abilities: enhanced intelligence, strength, and speed. Power of persuasion. Operative name: Savant. Additional info: Savant is the meta-human that the project was hoping to create from the start. It is surprising that it came from the negative non-volunteer group, but the unusual blood type may be to blame. Savant is to be watched carefully for any signs of rebelling. Closing notes of Dr. Malone.
I've created, including the Mannequins, 7 new types of beings to be utilized by Organization 440 in their endeavors. I consider the Hysteria Project a giant success. The beings and creatures are to be transferred to the current Ops branch for further conditioning and assignments. I've also just gotten word that the Architect project was the only other successful project and they only managed to create 1 creature. Laughable, truly laughable. I'll be taking a several month break, I think, a well-deserved vacation, while I wait for instructions on the next project.
And that's where it ends. Secret here, again, by the way. I figured that I'd take the space to address a few things and even just provide everyone with more insight into the situation. First off, a few people have been asking me why I don't share the folder. Here's a direct quote of mine from case file 1. This may not be the coolest thing to say, but I think I'm holding on to these. My first reason is reasonable, I think. I really don't know what or who I'm dealing with. If I get in trouble for sharing these, then I want to be the only one in trouble, not endanger my favorite subreddit this side of the ethereal plane. My second reason is a little less noble. I have something that literally, that I know of, no one else has. Every horror buff and cryptozoologist would kill to get their hands on what I now have. I'm like the kid who got a new Pokemon game a year before everyone else. I mean, if shit gets bad or if I feel I could lose the information, I may do a mass upload, but as of right now, I'm holding the keys to the kingdom. I'm sorry and hope you understand. I later followed this up by revealing that I was actually experiencing weird things with the file. A few people have asked me how many case files there are, and I never give a straight up exact answer. That's because it keeps changing. The number of case files within change to a different amount every time I exit and enter it. On top of that, I've noticed case files being moved around. It's not the easiest thing to pick up since the case files don't have unique names, but regardless, I've seen it change in order, and on top of all that, I can't help but notice that the order of the case files seems deliberate so far. Several people speculated that someone or something could be moving the files around on purpose, that it may use some kind of archival system not seen in civilian devices yet, or even that the only reason I had this file to begin with is to reveal it to you guys so that the organization can get a gauge on our reactions to their actions. Do you know, not enough info quite yet. I've disconnected the laptop that the file is located on to see if someone was using the internet to alter it. That being said, I've had some seriously good conversations with a bunch of you in the comments. If you are just checking these out, or if you've been here from the start and haven't been reading comments, I advise you to think about it. I offer a lot of my personal opinion in the comments section, as well as engage in speculation along with everyone else. It's refreshing to get other people's takes on these case files. Another thing to mention is that the files themselves are not words of text, they are photographs of written documents. The handwriting on these can get pretty hard to read and it takes time to upload. Also, if you find doubled words, spelling mistakes, things like me using effect instead of effect, it's because I'm also usually preoccupied with something while typing, these whether it be music, video games or a movie. More than once, I have found myself slipping in a lyric that I had just heard simply because I wasn't paying attention. So I apologize for that in advance. I plan to slowly go through these and edit my grammar mistakes. Oh, and before I forget, one of the case files appears to be titled Hoffer. I've mentioned that in the comments as well and it probably needs to be said in post. The Hoffer file is actually one of the things that made me notice that the files were moving around in the first place. With that, I bid you a good day. No sleep? I look forward to meeting you in the comments. As always, stay safe. Secrets.